Welcome back to Midpoint. The Director of African American Outreach and a Newsmax contributor, Dr. Alveda King, joins us. Now, President Obama recently stated that race relations are better under his presidency than ever before. What is your reaction to those NPR comments?
Well, actually, when I hear the president make those statements, I was involved when President George W. Bush was president, and many of my colleagues, African American conservatives, were highly respected and much sought after during those days. And that has been historically the case even throughout the height and the worst times of racism in America. But we're not there yet. We're on the way, and we are moving forward. I believe today that racism, abortion, the assault on natural marriage, all of that is right in the forefront for the people to see, hear about, and know. So the most important thing to do is to examine our own hearts and our own lives. Racism still exists in America, but there are many people of goodwill who want to eradicate that condition. You know, many people voted for President Obama, not just African Americans. And during some of these demonstrations in New York and Ferguson and other places, we see people of every ethnic group out protesting, asking for fair access and fair equal rights. People need jobs and homes and good health care. You know, those are things that human beings need. Those are not racial needs. Those are human needs. And so this is a time in history when we need to turn to truth, turn to God, turn to prayer. So I would not say that the conditions of racism are so much better today, but they're much more evident, and we can do something about it.
Well, how specifically has the president failed in some of the promises that he made in the 2008 campaign and the 2012 campaign?
Well, I believe in the African American community, what is still missing is access, not just equal opportunity, empowerment, but access into those levels that give us opportunities for school, for education, good health care, offering people free abortions and easy access to birth control. That is really being pushed into the African American community. That's not going to help us get better jobs, better education, better living conditions. So I think the president needs to re-examine what everybody in America needs. And like I say, it's jobs, good education, stable families, those kinds of things. And we need some moral guidelines. In God we trust. It's certainly still true for many of us. And I believe that we should have freedom of religion across the board with no sanctions against people who still believe the Bible. These are things that the president can do to help us. We need to get our children out of jail, back into school, so that they can graduate and be in the boardrooms.
I want to ask you about the diversity of voices that the president is hearing from in the African American community. We know that he's hearing from Al Sharpton. Do you feel like he's also hearing from conservative African Americans?
Well, we are trying. I'm involved as a spiritual advisor to Restore the Dream 2015, and you can restorethedream2015.com, for example, over at my work with African American Outreach at Priests for Life. The president needs to hear our voices as well. I don't believe that we're getting through, but we want to. We're open, we're ready to talk. We want to talk to the law enforcement people in Ferguson and New York and across the country. I believe in nonviolent, peaceful conflict resolution, and I certainly believe in reading my Bible.
Well, what would you say to, you mentioned Ferguson, Missouri, what would you say to those demonstrators, those marchers? We just saw some video of it right there. What would you say to those young men and women who are so disgruntled right now with law enforcement, and they believe that African Americans have been violated by certain members of the law enforcement community, and they seem to be led right now by Al Sharpton and other members of the African American community?
I have been on the ground in Ferguson talking to various parts of that community, and what we have said is no peace, no justice. And I keep reminding Reverend Sharpton, through the media at least, blessed are the peacemakers. So we want to have peaceful thoughtful dialogue in all of these cities where violence is trying to erupt. I'm not a voice crying in the wilderness. I'm not alone. There are many leaders. I will be in Dallas, Texas at a reconciliation meeting at the Potter's House on the 15th of January. And then on the 21st, I will be praying with national leaders from across the country and prayer warriors on the 21st at the state capitol. So these reconciliation activities, there are many of us. We're not isolated, not just one, two, or three. We're not alone. And we're asking people to join us in seeking peaceful conflict resolution prayerfully.
All right, we want to mention your book once again, an outstanding read, and a lot of people really appreciate it. Once again, The King Rules, and just such an interesting perspective from Dr. Alveda King joining us today on Midpoint. Dr. King, it was a real honor. Again, we appreciate the new movie, Selma, some of your viewpoints on that. Really interesting, and I know a lot of people are going to be checking that over at the movie theaters the next couple weeks. Thanks again so much.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. King from New York, New York. Coming up, the discussing revelations of the treatment of our veterans.